It was a Sunday in March 1977, a day for family. In Pontiac, Michigan, a small Mexican restaurant called Trini and Max became the quiet stage for a drama no one could have predicted. Laughter, conversation. On the tables, platters of food arrived, steam rising from their surfaces. People passed dishes, their hands brushing, their voices mingling. Amidst the familiar tastes, one item stood out, a jar of hot peppers, home-canned, a special treat brought in to complement the restaurant's fare. The peppers were vibrant, promising a fiery kick. No one gave the jar a second thought. It was just food. The peppers made their way around, spooned onto plates, a bright addition. But inside its glass walls, a silent, airless alchemy had been unfolding, patient, deadly, ready to reveal itself. The toxin, tasteless and odorless, had done its work, silently entering dozens of unsuspecting diners. It moved with insidious efficiency, a poison so potent the amount needed to fell a person was nearly invisible. The first signs were subtle, a slight blurring of vision, a dryness in the throat, a faint, inexplicable weakness. The discomfort did not fade. It grew, tightening its grip, only the prelude to a symphony of paralysis. For those who ate the peppers, the world tilted. Walking became a monumental effort. By nightfall, unease sharpened into crisis, profound paralysis, swallowing impossible, breathing a desperate struggle. The first patient presented a bewildering puzzle, mind sharp, body failing. Stroke, heart attack, neurological event. Tests came back normal, seeing double, drooping lids, slurred speech, a terrifying disconnect, mind aware, body betraying, then another, then another. The trickle became a flood. Same story, same meal, Trini and Max, and the same terrifying descent. Paralysis marched downward, chests went still. The hiss and click of machines held the line. As victims climbed, public health converged on Pontiac with a terrifying suspicion, a word rarely spoken outside textbooks, botulism. The textbook triad, descending symmetrical paralysis, fully conscious, afebrile, and almost always foodborne. The culprit, botulinum toxin, a neurotoxin produced by Clostridium botulinum. An anaerobe, it thrives where oxygen does not. As dormant spores in soil, it is harmless until conditions align. Give it no oxygen, low acidity and warmth. The spore awakens, germinates, and produces toxin. An improperly sealed jar is a perfect incubator. Its lethality lives in nanograms. A single gram aerosolized could, in theory, kill over 1 million. At the neuromuscular junction, nerves release acetylcholine to contract muscle. Botulinum toxin binds and blocks that release, like a cut telegraph wire. The signal never reaches the muscle, not mere weakness, complete flaccid paralysis. Muscles relax, unable to obey the brain's commands. It hits cranial nerves first, eyes, face, throat, then arms, legs, and finally the muscles of respiration. Without a ventilator, suffocation is certain. With botulism likely, a different race began, a meticulous hunt for the source. Every plate, every condiment, every leftover scrap became evidence. Bed to bed, the questions. What did you eat? What did you drink? Salsa, guacamole, enchiladas. Food histories built a cohort. Slowly a suspect emerged. All signs pointed to the jar of home-canned hot peppers. Those who skipped them were spared. They searched the kitchen, then the bin. A glass jar, mostly empty, lid loose. Packaged, rushed to the lab in Lansing. Technicians drew samples of peppers and oil, a tiny amount into lab mice, ruffled fur, labored breathing, paralysis, then death. Positive. The jar was saturated with type A botulinum toxin. The hunt was over. The source was found. For the most severely affected, the fight entered a terrifying phase. Modern ventilators were overwhelmed. The hospital looked to the past. Iron lungs, coffin-like cylinders from the polio era. A victim slid inside, head through a rubber collar. Negative pressure made the chest rise and fall. Life inside was profound helplessness. The whoosh and clank, both reassurance and reminder, fully conscious. They could think, feel, worry, hear prognosis and the quiet weeping of family, but not respond. Autonomy vanished, feeding through tubes, cleaning, suctioning saliva from throats that could no longer swallow. The toxin doesn't destroy nerves. The body must grow new endings, weeks, months. Progress came in flickers, a finger twitch, a purposeful blink, a weak, unaided breath. For the 59 victims, this mechanical nightmare defined their struggle. A recipe, a mistake, a perfect storm. With the source confirmed, the question became, how? Investigators traced the jar to a generous home canner using a family jalapeno recipe, a method used many times before. Peppers are low acid. Boiling water kills bacteria at 212 degrees, but not botulinum spores. Low-acid foods require a pressure canner, 240 to 250 degrees, to eliminate spores. The recipe minced peppers, packed them tight and covered with oil, creating an oxygen-free environment the bacteria love. Spores likely rode in from soil. Without pressure canning, they survived, then produced toxin. Officials long advised, boil home-canned low-acid veg for at least 10 minutes before tasting. Spores resist heat, but the toxin does not. The peppers were served cold, straight from the jar. Heating would have neutralized the toxin and prevented the tragedy. A chain of small errors, wrong canning method, anaerobic oil layer, no final boil, together, a guarantee of disaster. One jar, one batch, one oversight, and the world's deadliest toxin sat on a Sunday table. A survivor lay watching his chest, waiting for it to rise. It did not. The terror was absolute. This is it. I'm going to die. The ventilator's arrival felt less like relief, more like surrender. Another tried to speak with blinks, words of love and reassurance trapped behind a locked throat, effort immense and often misunderstood. Phantom itches taunted, an unbearable torment she could not relieve. Days bled together, marked by shift changes and the rhythmic hum of machines, like being buried alive. After discharge came fatigue, breathlessness, trauma. Even a vacuum's hum could trigger panic, too close to the iron lung. The Pontiac outbreak, the largest in US history at the time, sent a shockwave through public health. Federal and state agencies launched massive education. The message, science, not tradition. Clear, direct guidelines. High-acid foods suit boiling baths. Low-acid foods, vegetables, meats, fish, require pressure canning, standardized times and temps. Hospitals and public health tightened communication. Labs developed faster, more sensitive toxin assays, a nationwide drill that hardened defenses. Today, the legacy is everywhere. Pamphlets, reputable sites, cookbook fine print. Follow tested recipes, use the right kit, and when in doubt, throw it out. Nearly half a century on, Pontiac remains a cornerstone of food safety, tragedy, resilience, discovery, prevention. The jar teaches humility and diligence. Respect heat, pressure, acidity. Trust tested USDA recipes over nostalgia. The jar that brought a town to its knees delivered a lesson that protects millions. It was sealed in 1977, but its lesson remains open for all time.